don't ever think of your colleagues as your competition. And I think too many times we get so stressed by the person across the street, the person down the block, that they're going to be our competitor and we can't, share ideas with them. We can't collaborate with them. There's enough water in the jug to fill all our cups.
Right. All right, hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the 2020 podcast, bringing clarity to business, to life, and to entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, on the podcast app, whether you're on iTunes or whether you're on Spotify, and feel free to share this. Let me know how you're liking it. Take a screenshot, put it up on your Instagram stories, whatever you like. I'd love to engage with you guys. So today I have an amazing guest. I'm so excited to introduce to you somebody who's been a mentor to me, a guide, has won awards as an optometrist, as a business owner, is highly sought after speaker, involved in many different companies in the industry, also is very well dressed, as you can see, and the owner of this beautiful clinic where we are today, Hollyburn Eye Clinic in North Vancouver. Dr. Pavan Avinashi, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you doing this.
Well, I gotta get you to wake me up every morning with an introduction. I love it. It's good to see you, man.
Record that on your phone, man. We'll put that in your every morning, 6 a.m. or whatever time you wake up.
Love it.
All right, so let's start this a real easy way. Let's do a quick intro.
Yep.
You tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Where were you raised? Where did you go to school? Give us that whole thing, right up until becoming an optometrist.
Sure. I was born and raised. I'm a prairie boy in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And grew up in a medical family in the sense that my father was a family doctor. And so I knew from a young age I loved healthcare. I wanted to be a healthcare practitioner. And initially I said, okay, I didn't know what discipline I wanted to do, but I wanted to get into health sciences and go on to do med school from there. It was in undergrad that a good friend of mine and I started a side business.
Oh, wow.
And through that process, it was just kind of a casual business to make a few extra dollars and have fun at the same time. That business slowly became a viable business and actually grew. And so we were going to school, but at the same time we were running a business that was doing well, that was growing, that had a lot of potential. And we learned how to run a business and to be businessmen at the same time.
Very cool.
And it soon became, a practicality of, I love healthcare, but I love running business. And how do I merge the best or get the best of both worlds? And it was a good friend of mine who said, why don't you go into optometry, look into that? And sure enough, I felt that would be the best, most suited for my personality and what I wanted to engage in at a professional level. And that's when I looked into optometry and didn't look back ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, well, you kind of answered one of my questions that was going to come up later, which was what brought you into optometry, but that's amazing. But now I have a question about this business that you were running. What were you guys doing, if you don't mind sharing?
It started off as a DJ company, like just doing some DJ gigs.
Yes, okay.
I went on to be a DJ's promotion company, and we ended up doing several hundred parties a year. We were traveling all across the province, and
all within Saskatchewan.
All within Saskatchewan, yeah. Awesome. So we had all our friends got engaged and involved in this business because, hey, we got paid to have a good time as a college student.
That's amazing.
But it was something that even when I moved on to optometry, the business continued and grew even more, and it had many employees and was doing shows all across the province. So it became a very sustainable, profitable, and successful business.
Dang, that's amazing, man. I had no idea that it was that big. Okay, so that's interesting because maybe this will, we'll go a little bit off track here, but you listen to entrepreneurs, and especially these days, entrepreneurship is kind of this buzzword. A lot of people are talking about it, and guys like Gary Vee and so on out there. But somebody like Gary Vee in particular will say that entrepreneurship is sort of in your blood, right? It's not something that you could probably train it, but like a true entrepreneur is almost born. It's like in your DNA. And it sounds like that was the case with you.
And I agree to that to a certain degree, but I also feel like you can, if you have the gift of the gab, if you have the communication skills, the personal skills to interact with people and engage with them and understand people, I think everybody can be a business person at certain levels.
Right.
Understanding the business model and the monetary aspect of running a business is different, and we don't get taught that in our school ever. No. But sometimes school of hard knocks is the best way to learn anything.
It's true. Yeah. Very true. Very true. So tell us about, now we learned a little bit about you up until you became an optometrist. Where did you go to school again?
Undergrad was at the University of Saskatchewan, and then I did my optometry at the Illinois College of Optometry.
ICO, what up?
Yeah.
So tell us about when you graduated then, because you're from Saskatchewan. When did you come to Vancouver?
Yeah. After graduating, for me, a big component, like I said, it was I wanted to own my own business. Yep. It wasn't about being an associate for the rest of my life, and I was eager to just get out there and start running and start building a practice.
Right.
It was my father who was a physician. He had multiple locations, actually 3 locations when I was growing up. He said to me, his advice was, do one thing. After you graduate, work as an associate for a little while. Learn what to do and what not to do, and understand where you want to practice and what kind of practice you want to build. And the best way to do that is under somebody else's belt.
Right.
And it was probably some of the best advice I got. And he said, do it for a year, and then look for opportunities to build or buy a practice from there.
Gotcha.
And sure enough, I think I lasted about 8 or 9 months, and then I had an opportunity that came out to me, and it was lucky and fortunate to move forward with that.
Wow. 8 or 9 months into your career, you acquired a practice.
Yeah.
And that was called Hollyburn Eye Clinic at the time?
Yes, it
awesome.
was.
And you've had it ever since. How many years, if you don't mind us
aging you? 2004. No, it's been 15 years this year.
15 years. Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And of course, we're jumping ahead here, but that's progressed because that used to be 2 separate locations in North Vancouver and West Vancouver. And you've amalgamated those, if that's the right term, into one beautiful. Guys, if you're in the Vancouver area, come to Hollyburn Eye Clinic in North Van. It's beautiful. It's a huge practice. Beautiful office. Highly recommend it. If you want to see what I think what a lot of us are aspiring to build as a practice, this place is it.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but it's been a passion of mine to have a center of excellence, a center where people want to go to experience an amazing experience from walking in to leaving, and not just necessarily walking out with a pair of glasses, but experiencing, hey, this is my eye care provider, my eye doctor, and that's what we call ourselves, an ocular wellness center.
Right. Yes, I remember seeing that outside. I love that because you're not just an optometry clinic, ocular wellness. That's a whole different, another branch that we can go down, right? Branding and how you brand, not just personally, but your clinic. Because of course we are all optometrists, but we have to show our patients and potential patients what we can do more than just refraction and give you a pair of glasses. So that's amazing that you do that. I wanted to ask you, going back a little step to the beginning of Hollyburn when you acquired it, some of the challenges that you face as a young doctor. You just moved to Vancouver. You acquired this business. Can you think of 1 or 2 things that kind of stuck out in your mind that were tough at the time that you had to work through?
Yeah, again, it's probably no different now. It's probably way worse now, but we work in a very competitive industry. And with corporatization or bigger entities starting to make a larger footprint into our industry, we've got to do something to, survive, and differentiate our practice. So some of the challenges, going back to your question, some of the challenges that I had initially was I was a young guy with, I would say, minimal business experience. Sure, I had a 4-year experience in some business, but it was different.
Right.
We don't get trained this. We don't get taught how to run a business. So there's natural challenges of just, how to run a business, how to manage personnel, how to do payroll, how to submit my MSP, my medical billings. Nobody gets taught that. Right. So it's all, again, just learning by doing. So there's a lot of mistakes that are to be had. And you hear this from any mentor or anybody who wants to give advice. Don't be scared to make mistakes, because that's how you become stronger and bigger and better. And that comes at a micro level of submitting a wrong billing, or a macro level in investing in a business or not. Yes, we have this one clinic, which I'm proud to see where we're at, but I've been invested or owned or operated or started up 6 different optometry clinics in the last 15 years.
Right.
Some have sold, some have dissolved, some have merged.
Right.
But the point being is now I'm here where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And you just have to take a chance. You lose some money on some, you lose some money on whether it's diagnostic equipment. You think it's the greatest and best in your profession, and you invest $20,000, $15,000 in it, realize after 6 months it's not the best, doesn't work that great. You move on. You gotta take chances with everything.
That's awesome. That's really, actually, I think, super important advice. Being willing to take a risk, believe in yourself, and being able or willing to lose if you have to, or make a mistake, because otherwise what's the alternative? You stay in the exact same spot and you never move and you never grow.
Yeah.
So talking about some medical equipment and things like that, I know that you're quite involved, entrenched in the industry, working with a lot of different companies as a key opinion leader on different levels with different companies. Tell us a little bit about when or how early in your career you started doing that and how you got into that.
So for me, I've always been an early adopter of technology and an early adopter of innovation. So with that comes the willingness to try something, invest it financially or not, and approaching it with these companies saying, hey, that's something I'm motivated to do. And I don't like to over-diversify my offering of what we do in our patients. So I don't do everything from A to Z. I kind of subspecialize or kind of honed in on a couple of things that have interested me.
Okay.
I think it's important to start off that way and then move on to different segments. So in our profession, whether it's dry eye disease or ocular surface disease or myopic control or traumatic brain injury, it's not that I started doing all of that all at once. You choose, and you just kind of choose your forte or choose your interest and move forward from that. And then, of course, networking with the industry partners in that specific arena is important, showing that you have interest and showing that you can accelerate and be different than the other practices.
Gotcha.
And again, the industry, there's a lot of partners that you can get involved with. Not burning bridges is important, but realizing which one you align with your morals, align with your vision is important, and partner with those guys accordingly.
Gotcha. So you touched on one word in there that I'm a big believer in, and I mention a lot of times. Obviously, I'm kind of active on social media, so networking I think is super key, and not in the cheesy like let me just show up at a networking event and hand out 200 business cards, but like more so kind of what happens behind the scenes, because that's in the spotlight in a sense, right? But like, can you speak to like if networking has been helpful to you, and what forms of networking you would say that you employed?
I think that question is a great question, because I think it applies to no matter what type of business you're running.
100%.
And I think this is again something I can give credit to my parents, is they always said to give back to your community. And when that community exists, it's not just your neighborhood community. It could be your professional community. It could be to the health community. It could be to whatever it may be, even your religious community for that matter. But you want to give back to your community. And I think anything you do in that level is part of your networking. If you're good at shaking a hand and introducing yourself and and appreciating and giving an ear to somebody else, that is all part of the networking concept. So we've always been actively involved in giving back to our community, or the North Shore community here in Vancouver. Whether it's the seniors groups or Girl Guides or community schools, we always do stuff to allow them to invite them to our own building, or we also go to their office or their place of establishments to talk to them and support them, whether it's a fundraiser or whatever it may be.
Great.
As far as a professional concept, getting involved with your associations, getting involved, volunteering to do free screenings, which I know you do a lot of that kind of stuff too. I think that's important, and that's something that we should be able there's an obligation that as a profession that's given so much to us, we should give back to.
Right.
And then obviously to the underserviced community at a local and a global level. Right. And I think you should do that with the intentions of doing good as opposed to getting recognition.
Right.
But when you do these things with an innocent heart, I think that gives back way more.
100%. I love that. That's great. So you mentioned a little bit about, of course, the community aspect. You mentioned a little bit about professionally within the profession and the, volunteering within your association. I know you've been heavily involved in the past on the board of the association and that kind of thing here. And I've dabbled a little bit.
No, you've done a lot. It's being modest.
But tell me about networking with other optometrists outside of our region here, because I know again you're well, what's the right word? Connected in a sense, and you've not just been involved, but in fact like led conversations with people. How would somebody out there who, like, let's say you have an idea and you want to strengthen your goal is to strengthen the profession in some sense, or you want to build some sort of mastermind or connection where you can share good ideas.
I think it's very important, no matter what profession you're in, to be involved with some mentorship group. Whether you're the lead of that group or whether you're just part of it is important. If you don't know about any group, you can create your own. And how does it derive? I think this is a very important mindset that I have, and that it was taught again by my mentors and by my parents as well. My father, who was a business owner and a businessman too, is that don't ever think of your colleagues as your competition. And I think too many times we get so stressed by the person across the street, the person down the block, that they're going to be our competitor, and we can't, share ideas with them. We can't collaborate with them. Whereas, at the end of the day, I had practice in West Vancouver. I was the only one there for years. Within 5 years, I had somebody across the street, kitty corner from me, a kilometer that way, a kilometer that way. And it's fine. I didn't look at that as a challenge. I looked at that as, we're getting more of a presence of our profession in this industry, in this community. And what do they often say? There's enough water in the jug to fill all our cups. Right. It doesn't matter where they are. the more you can encompass that mentality and collaborate and fraternize with your colleagues, the better you're going to network, build that up, and you guys are going to work together to leverage your professionalism and your potential. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. I love that thought, that because that's actually something that I wasn't planning to ask you about, but I'm so glad you shared, because it's, again, something that I like to share on social media when I'm speaking to other optometrists in general, younger optometrists as well, who are coming out and saying that it seems like such a saturated industry profession, and it is, fair enough. But so is every other profession, unless you're starting as the only person in that profession.
Exactly.
It's going to become saturated pretty quickly. And so looking at it more from collaboration versus competition is so key.
It's huge.
Not just from like building ourselves up, building our profession up, but also just from a sanity perspective, I think.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. If you look at everybody as your friend versus your enemy, you're probably going to be a little more...
And you have to. I mean, I don't think anybody is truly your enemy. Even when you look at box stores or outfits that, are popping up all over our industry as far as providing eye care and cheaper glasses, doesn't mean that it devalues us. If anything, it helps us differentiate us, because we can do things to set ourselves apart. Right. And you focus on what you can do best. Yeah. And focus on what you can do to drive your business. Set your own goals, and it's a bit of a tunnel vision, but an awareness of what's happening around you. But focus on what you want to do on a day-to-day basis.
You got it. I love it. So I've touched on social media a few times. I know you're not personally that active on social media. Well, at least compared to me.
Yeah, relative to you, I don't
relative
think many people
to me, that's right. I'm in the upper echelon of activity on social media. But then again, I've found myself in a world where people are significantly more active than I am. Yeah. So I don't know if that's worth anything. But on social media, it tends to act like kind of like a highlight reel. And I'm guilty of this. We all are, because that's kind of what it's conducive to. Yep. Is you put up a photo of you doing some activity or at some place, or myself maybe doing a television interview or something like that. And I think, unfortunately, it breeds anxiety and frustration in people who are maybe hoping to do that but are not doing that. Mm-hmm. But they're not seeing what happens behind the scenes.
Of course.
So you're one person that I know who works extremely hard. I often get emails from Pavan at 2 a.m. about some meeting that we have coming up. That's prime time Pavan activity.
Prime time work time.
I am full asleep in that point. I'll be up about 2 or 3 hours after that. But tell me a bit, share with us a little bit about, without sounding too obnoxious about this, but work ethic. What's your kind of schedule like on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day, if you want to share a little bit? You come to work at a certain time, but after work, how many hours are you putting in to do the things that you do?
I wouldn't advise what I do is the right way, but I think this comes down to what I was, my nurturing as a child, is that you should never be scared of working hard. If you want, no success in this world comes, or minimally, or 90% of the time, 99% of the time, success comes from how much we put into it, how hard you work. And I was never scared of hard work. And for me, I do what I do because I'm passionate about what I do. I love it on a day-to-day basis. I don't care how long my to-do list is every single day. It seems to never get shorter. I don't care how many mornings up till 2 a.m. writing emails, kind of coordinating stuff. For me, it's not about how little sleep or much sleep I do or don't get. It's really about, am I achieving my goal? Am I getting to where I want to be? And am I satisfied with that? Again, it's not even a financial goal. It's I want success. I want to be financially comfortable and secure. And this profession does allow us to have that. But you have to do things right. And you have to take those chances. And you have to be willing to put that time into things, for sure.
For sure.
So my typical day, I don't know. For years, I was get up at 6:30 and I'd be at the gym. I'd start patient care at 8:30, 9 o'clock, come home and spend time with my kids. I have 2 boys. Yeah. And once they're down, then it became work time. So that's when I'm not doing patient care, but I could do a lot of my administrative stuff, whether it's the organizations or committees I'm involved with, or just doing, HR, PR stuff, and really communicating with my staff, things like that. So yeah, I'd on average go to sleep about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
And then up at 6:30.
Yeah.
Wow.
As I'm maturing, my need for a little more sleep is increasing, but for a long time, if I got my 5 hours of sleep, I was on point, fully energized and ready to go.
That's impressive.
And now we're kind of drifting closer to that 6-hour mark now. So.
Jeez, I am well beyond the 6-hour mark, man. I get up early, but I have to go to bed early to match that.
Fair enough.
I'm not functional past 10:30 anymore.
But by no means is that a recipe. Each to their own. That doesn't mean that's what you need to do to have some level of professional success. I mean, there's people who do things a lot more different, much more efficiently than their mind, and prioritize things differently. It's just, for me, that's worked.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Last few questions. Number one, if you could point out one or two characteristics personally of traits that you have that have helped you succeed or helped you build success in ways that you want to succeed, what would you suggest they are?
I think two things. Number one, treat each person not only the way you want to be treated, but the way they want to be treated. And I say that in the sense that I advocate this to all my staff. I don't care if somebody's coming in and they reek of alcohol and they may be, very unpolished and obviously have no means to buy a nice pair of glasses, or you have the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and we have those type of patients on a daily basis. You treat each patient, you service each patient the exact same way. That's one thing that in our profession that allows us to do that. We're not, going through 50 patients a day and we have a long wait list. We may have a long wait list, but we do allocate a certain amount of time with each of our patients, regardless of who they are. So respect and treat each patient the same, and no matter what the background is, or each individual in your interactions in life. Each person has their own story. Each person has their own troubles and trials and tribulations. And like you said in Facebook, you see all the good things, but every person has their own SHIT that they've lived through and they've gone through. But respect them for who they are and always look at the positives of that person. So that's one of the traits is when I meet somebody, I trust them full-heartedly. I respect them. I think they're all great people until they prove otherwise. And number two is that, what was the other thing?
I'll let you think about it for a second. I'll go to the next question, unless it's coming to you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, time machine, you hop back. 15 years, right? Pavan Avinashi just acquired Hollyburn Eye Clinic. What advice are you giving to that young buck a year out, just graduated? Or maybe, let's just maybe make it a little broader, somebody who's a year out and wants to acquire a clinic. I remember my response to this question, but I'll tie it in with that too. And I didn't do this initially. So another thing that helps kind of keep me on track and has allowed me to have some level of success and throughout it is to have a vision, have a plan. In not just our profession, but too many businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses, there is no business plan. There's no goal. There's no kind of focus there. Put pen to paper, create a business plan. I think that's business school 101, and it may be almost so rudimentary, but it's something you need to do. Is like, I have all these ideas. I wanted to create a business plan, create a timeline, create a goal, create a focus. You may not achieve all of it, but it gives you more accountability and more focus in that direction you want to go. So that's one of my big advices. So if I had to go back to when I started, I didn't have a business plan for the first 6-7 years of my business. Got you.
And we grew. We were growing in a healthy direction. But the moment I actually formalized my visions and formalized my game plan and my action plans, we were growing by healthy double digits ever since. And I think that was a big thing. And that's something I would say, that's something I didn't do properly. And number two, I think if I had to go back and say one thing I could have done better outside of taking a gamble, and it was a gamble when I started, is to ensure you're aligned with somebody. Don't think you can do this all by yourself. In our profession, we have independent optometrists that aren't aligned with any networking group, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't think, why are you trying to reinvent the wheels in so many different things? I think aligning your business with, in any profession, with a networking group that can help you elevate your game, learn from other people's mistakes and successes is going to help take a lot of headaches off your plate.
Got you. All right. I was going to make those my last couple of questions, but I want to dig a little deeper on a couple of those things. So I'll go backwards here. Now we're in Vancouver, but Canada in general, I guess, we can't speak, you might be able to speak a little more to the US, but can you just name a few of those groups? Now, let's say there is somebody who's got a young private practice optometry clinic and they want to align. Just can you give them a couple of names that you think that they could reach out to?
That's like some of the networking groups would be,
or like
the mastermind groups.
Sorry?
Some of the mastermind groups you're talking
about?
No,
more so like private practice aligning with buying groups or other networks like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, in the independent concept of world in Canada, you got iRecommends. You got Independent Alliance. You have OSI, things like that. Those are more bigger scale networking groups.
Gotcha.
But even within that, there's some more mastermind groups that can form. It just appears, whether it's in the dry eye world or whether it's in the vision therapy world, there's some more mastermind groups that can be created. And again, there's no formality necessarily to that. It's sometimes just buddies who have interests that get together and create a formal group and make something of it.
And again, that comes from reaching out to people
and networking,
expressing interest. And the other thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, if you can go slightly more as far as like a practical step or two. Again, somebody who's new and they want to create a business plan, what would you suggest as just the first couple steps? Because I remember it was a bit intimidating for me. But where did you start? Like just as a super basic step, what would you say as a first step?
Just establishing what your 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year vision is. And what are some of your challenges and opportunities that are there, the resources that you have available, and then line it up with, kind of create a business plan that you have. If you had infinite resources, dollars, and time, what would it look like? Then if you had very limited resources in time, which is obviously in most cases where it is, and find a middle ground of what's practical and what you can do. But always think one step ahead and aim for that one step ahead, because you will never get there if you don't.
Right. Makes sense. If I can just add to that, obviously there's lots of resources on the internet, but different banks will provide you with templates or like little checklists to go through. There are specific websites, I can't remember, unfortunately it's not in my mind right now, but that provide a lot of resources as far as creating templates for business plans as well. So even if whether you're starting an optometry practice or you're trying to do some other kind of startup business, check it out. Obviously, our friend Google is very helpful for that kind of stuff. The last question I want to ask you, and you already kind of answered this, but it's on my list of questions, is based on your career and your life and your success to this point, would you say it's more due to hard work or luck?
You can't undermine the value of luck in a lot of career things, but you can't base it and you can't dwell on that luck. You just got to work hard. Hopefully you get some lucky breaks along the way. Don't be scared when you do make those dates, but keep your head up and keep on moving forward.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, dude.
Hey, buddy.
I appreciate it. You're amazing. Guys, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. Give us a rating, drop a comment. Take a screenshot, put it on your Instagram story. I'd love to engage with you guys on whatever platform you're on. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Awesome.